Let's get back to you two gentlemen with where we were if you were watching. We'll have more on the tensions in the Middle East throughout the morning. Let's get back to this discussion that we were having, and I'll make what I was trying to what my case was, Steve and Jeremy, and that is that even countries that deserve austerity, it's easier said than done, because people will immediately say you just made it worse, and you took a recession and you turned it into almost a depression. So it's almost like people want you to extend the credit card, give your wayward teenage son an additional $50,000 on the credit card, and everything will be okay to avoid that. You're seeing it happening in Spain. I mean, in Spain, these people don't realize that the government doesn't have any money. Germany is not giving them money, but you want them to do all these free market things, but you can't get them to do that. And I think the only way out is devaluation.
The problem is the Germans aren't putting pressure on them to simplify their tax codes, liberalize their labor market.
How long will that take, Steve? In the meantime, this is what you see, that the people start torching cars.
You can do it. You can do it in a week. Get through tax changes, make it easier to start a legal business. In Italy, it takes forever. Greece, it takes forever. And so why not sell off government assets? Poland, in the last 3 years, has sold off 900 companies, billions of dollars worth of businesses, raised easy cash. Greece has tens of billions of dollars of assets. Why don't they sell them off?
There was a story over the weekend in the New York Times about how the airport in Greece was one of the best properties there. Would you invest your money putting into the privatization of Greece and feel confident in that investment and not worry that the game would change down the road as the situation gets more difficult?
Well, again, you sell and you sell for a price. For example, I was in a conference in Greece a year ago, got some tear gas for my efforts. They always having riots there. They had ministers from Poland who's done this massive privatization. No one in the Greek government was interested in talking to the Poles. How do you do it? Who can you trust? How do you avoid the corruption? Just basic stuff. How do you move this thing forward? So if the Greeks aren't interested in it, who's going to invest in it?
That's what I mean. Would you feel comfortable investing money in that right now?
Yeah, but a lot of people from overseas, Greeks who have left the country or Greek descent, are willing to invest there if the government just gives a sign that they're willing to be serious about it.
We started printing here a couple of years ago in a big way, and we have numbers, Jeremy, that go out to like 2016 now is the latest that we're going to be printing. Over there, they've got to print eventually. People say they're
already doing it.
That's what they have to do. So you want all these you've got these ideas, and you disparage the Fed here. You still want king dollar, but isn't it just a fact of life that the only way out?
Trashing money.
That's the only way out, though, because that's the only
never leads to a sustained recovery.
People don't have to agree to it. It happens in an underhanded way where suddenly their purchasing power is left.
And you haven't changed the tax and structure. You're right back where you were.
Don't you pay off all the debt at half price?
I mean, there's several problems. One problem in Greece and Spain is certainly the competitiveness problem and the overspending problem. But another problem is that their labor costs got way too high during the boom that preceded it, and they're totally out of line with the rest of Northern Europe and Germany.
What should we do?
So I mean, in that case, I think that the ECB will end up lowering the euro.
So they'll devalue, but we think we're above that here. We don't want to. Our labor costs are going up. There's things happening here the same way, but
labor costs are not going up in the U.S. Unit labor costs have actually been stable or downward moving. Labor is cheap in the U.S. compared to a lot of places in the world.
But other than the Fed, how do we handle things in this country in terms of austerity? Since we don't want to, we're gonna kick the fiscal cliff down the road. That's why there are people that think the fiscal cliff is the best way to go. It's our version of austerity.
If we can get back to a normal rate of unemployment, back towards the 5% level, we eliminate over half of our deficit.
Right. How are we going to do that?
Well,
do you expect us to do that?
Yeah, I think that's going to be happening. I think it's going to be happening starting next. I think, I'm one of these people saying 3 to 4% GDP growth next year. And even that, interestingly enough, that is not that great.
I hope
given coming out of a recession.
Why are you shaking your head?
Because we're piling on taxes, piling on a lot of new regulations from Obamacare and Dodd-Frank, which is hurting small banks. And as long as you have a weak dollar, hard to get a sustained recovery.
You haven't heard of the new normal?
Yeah, but Steve, what do you mean weak dollar? We're stronger relative to the yen. We're stronger relative to the euro. These are the major currencies.
Well, that's like a 98-pound weakling versus an 88-pound weakling.
But currencies are all relative. I mean, that's how you measure them.
No, but you measure it against gold.
Measured against gold.
And it's very weak.
Measure them against commodities inflation, which is still extremely moderate. It's the purchasing power of the money. That has not gone down in the United States.
The weak dollar is why standard of living has gone down in this country in the last 10 or 15 years. When your paycheck goes down in value, your standard of living goes down. It also hurts investment. When anyone asks me, why do you invest in gold? I know there's trouble out there. The only reason you should buy gold is if you're a jeweler or you're a gold miner. We invest in gold. But when people do it as an asset class, you've got problems. That's money that should be going into productive things for the future, not buying an asset to try to preserve your purchasing power.
I agree I don't think gold is a great investment right now because I think so much fear is driving it so very high. But the truth is inflation in the last 10 years has been extremely low, and one of the lowest we've had.
Whenever you trash your money, you don't know what the symptoms are going to be. We had a huge housing bubble. Never would have had that housing bubble if the Fed hadn't cheapened the dollar.
I'm just saying I don't think the dollar has been cheapened over the last 10 years. Whether it will be in the future does depend on Federal Reserve policy.
Wouldn't have gone from $350 to $1,700 in gold.
That's just gold. Everything else that people buy, that's the only thing you're measuring it. Everything else people buy has not been going up at more than 1 or 2% a year.
People's real standard of living is going down. Whenever you trash your money, that's what happens.
I told you I could get these guys.
There you go. You did very well.
Now what we need to do is have a wrestling.
Yeah, right.
We have a cage. We have a cage out back.
You got gold. You own guns?
I'm not going to say.
Because he's out in Far Hills. You're out in the middle of nowhere. I'll bet you. You do. I'm taking that as a yes.